for those that have been wishing and dreaming for a white Christmas. Well, your dream has come true, but I might add, I hope you're satisfied. It doesn't take a whole lot of snow for me anymore. We're all familiar with the Christmas story. Matthew records it, and Luke also records it, and we have been reading from that the last several weeks in preparation for Christmas. But what do you think? Why do you think Luke, the writer of that gospel, Dr. Luke, begins the Christmas story with these words? In those days, a decree went down from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration when Quirinius was governor of Syria. Well, there's one good explanation there, and that's politics. Politics was at play even 2,000 years ago. Jesus was born. He was born into a real world, born of a human mother. His first breath was that piercing cry of life that comes out of the mouth of any newborn baby. But his cry was the message to the world that God has arrived. God in the flesh, incarnate, has arrived. His message was that God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son into this world so that we might be able to live and to have life abundantly. And then in verse 7, which you just heard a few moments ago, and she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger, for there was no room for them in the inn. Christmas is a lot of things to a lot of people, but Christmas is God's message to us. It's God's message to us that we cannot stop life and we cannot stop love. Life and love always finds a way. This life, this love, this child that was born to Mary and Joseph in a small town far from the bright lights. This life, this love, was the light of the world. His life was the light of the world. When Jesus appears in the fullness of flesh, there's very few that knew about it at that moment when it was going on. God's life on earth begins right there in that stable, and there's only a few witnesses to it. There's Mary, there's Joseph, there's some shepherds, there's some livestock. But in all this messiness and all the pain of human birth, the light of the world begins to shine. Now, perhaps the question for you and I today is, will we see him as being the light of the world? Will we see ourselves as being his light in this dark world? Will we take that gift that God has given us and help light up a dark world? In other words, will we be the reflection of his light? Can we set aside the clutter? Can we set aside all the busyness, all the hecticness of Christmas, all the disappointments that may be associated with this? And can we be able to see through the eyes of faith that Jesus indeed was born the light of the world? I was in a situation the other night. I turned out all the lights I was in a place I'm pretty familiar with. I don't know what happened. I got disoriented. I was going in another room. I thought I knew my way out, but I didn't. I had to turn the light back on just to see my way out of a familiar office. But it made me think of this world and the darkness of this world. And when you're in darkness, even though you may think you may know your way around, you can still stumble, run up against things that you don't want, hit things that you don't want, knock over things that you don't want. But when we have the light of the world leading us and guiding us, then there is not that darkness. The world is in darkness because the world does not know that light of the world. Christmas can be a difficult time for a lot of people. For many people, this is their first Christmas without loved ones. Their first Christmas without people that have been very special in their lives. But knowing that Jesus Christ really is the light of the world, we can have the darkness of our lives illuminated with his light. To know and to understand that Jesus Christ was sent to this world with a purpose. It didn't just happen. He wasn't just born. Mary didn't just have an immaculate conception. God planned all of that out so many years ahead of time, from the beginning of time. Jesus Christ was born for a purpose. He was born for that purpose, to come into the messiness of our own lives, to come into sin-sick lives, and to be able to expel that sin, be able to forgive that sin, and to come in with a sense of healing, a sense of hope, a sense of knowing that God has a purpose for every one of us. And he can fill our hearts and our lives and allow our lives to be overflowing with that joy, that peace, that love that we long for this time of the year. But also, it's something we long for every day in our lives. From his first birth, his first breath right there in the manger, to his last breath on the cross 33 years later. Jesus Christ lived a life reminding us that we have a purpose, that God has a purpose for our lives. And because of what he did for us, we can have that unspeakable gift, the greatest gift of all, that gift of salvation. We've got little children with us today, and some of us big folks can even be little children. We like gifts. We know the excitement of opening up gifts. And all of those are fun. They serve their purpose. That's good. We like that. But let's not forget the greatest gift to all mankind happened in Bethlehem, in a stable, in a manger. God had a plan. God still has a plan. God has a purpose for us all. And then that last part of that Christmas story. And she gave birth. And the whole world said, "Thanks be to God." Where would we be today if we were still lost in our sinfulness? Where would we be today without that gift of salvation? God really did love us so much that he gave his only son. And I can't even begin to imagine the pain that he experienced in knowing that he had to give up his son and what that son would go through.